Greetings everyone, I'm happy to introduce you to my Earth Druid build on Diablo IV, which allows you to quickly farm torment dungeons in breakpoint 30. You'll see that I'm using a quite cool combo in order to clear bosses and highlights very easily. I'll explain everything in that video. For the skill, you'll be playing Earth Spike in order to get Fortify and some resource, and the landslide when your other skills are in cooldown, because we have two much more interesting spells. This one, the Poison Creeper, which will poison enemies when you activate it, and the Trample, which will remove the poison from enemy. I'll explain deeper how it works, but keep in mind that you'll have to use the Poison Creeper and then the Trample in order to do the combo. Then you have the bulwark for the unstoppable and our ultimate petrify. So how the combo works: the first item is this one. It will remove the poison from enemies and deal increased damage. That's why after using the trample, it will remove the poison from the poison creeper. We also add this to the trample. It will create 6 landslides in order to have a very good combo effect. Lastly, to finish this combo, you want this power in order to have a second pillar. That means that instead of 6, you'll have 12 pillars to do massive AoE damage. Then you want the +2 to Earth skill when you are fortified, and this one which will increase the amount of the Earthen Bulwark. You also want this which will increase the duration and especially increase the duration of your unstoppable. Then you have some damage reduction on basic attack, increase Earth skill damage on crowd control enemies, and resource when you CC an enemy. For the boon, damage reduction from elites, increase critical chance, increase critical strike damage, and the fact that you can reset the cooldown of your companion skills. The last one, which will reduce your ultimate cooldown. For the gems, you can have a mix of rubies for the life and also sapphire in order to get damage reduction. For the accessories, diamonds, and for the weapon, either you get critical strike to crowd control enemies or damage over time if you want to boost the poison damage. For the skill tree, first we get the Earth Spike with the Fortify, and then we'll get to the Landslide with the increased damage. You'll get a Terremote increasing its damage each time that you immobilize or stun an enemy. Then you have the Bulwark. You can either get the damage or the Fortify, but just 1 point in this skill, and the defensive passive in order to boost your resistances. Then we get to our Creeper with the increased duration because it increases the base damage applied. For example, here we have 33k damage, and if I remove this one, you'll only get 17k damage. So it's important to get this node in order to have the better combo effect. You also have here additional damage, and this one you'll put what you have left in this. We get to trample just 1 point with the Fortify effect, and we have our Earth passive which will increase the damage, and this one to get some Fortify. You can also consider this passive which will increase the critical strike damage that enemies take if they are poisoned. Then you have some interesting passive for the damage, and here for the healing, our ultimate, and this one very important, reducing the CC effect under Fortify. Lastly, our K passive, the Earthen Might. For the stats, you first want willpower in order to boost your overall damage. Then critical strike chance, critical strike damage, and some dexterity. After that, everything which will reduce your damage, damage reduction to close enemies, and so on. And then poison damage, physical damage, damage to poison enemies, which will work very well with the build. Lastly, some lucky hit. Try to get between 10 and 15% for this build. For the Paragon, you first want to get this glyph in order to increase your damage in human form and also get some damage reduction. Make sure to take the willpower node in order to boot this glyph, and then we'll get to our first board with this legendary power. On a lucky hit, you have a chance to poison enemies. Then we get this glyph in order to increase your damage to poison enemies. It's in dexterity, so you need to get all the dexterity node and the rare nodes just here. On your way to the next board, you get this rare node, and then move to this board with this legendary power, increasing damage for Earth skill on CC enemies. You also want this glyph which will increase your poison damage and give you a chance to double the effect of your poison, so it will be very strong. This one is in intelligence, and don't forget to get this node on your way. After that we have this power here which will increase damage to crowd control enemies, and we move to the last board, this one with this glyph, in order to get increased damage when fortified. At the very end of it you can get this legendary power in order to increase your damage if you have 3 or more poison enemies. You'll get this node increasing damage to poison enemies, and this one too for elite and poison enemies. So even if with the combo you remove this poison, it will greatly increase the power of the combo in order to quickly clear enemies. For the gameplay you want to use the combo with the poison creeper and the trample. After using the trample, it will remove the poison from your enemies and it will almost one-shot anything affected by the combo, and after that you have your basic skill and your landslide in order to finish the mobs. You also have your ultimate which will stun enemies and synergize very well with the build, and of course the Earth Bulwark in order to grant unstoppable and some defense to your character. Be careful, it's not a very tanky build, but it's compensated by the quick DPS in order to kill everything. Also, it's not mandatory to use this combo. If you miss it or if you don't have the cooldown, it's quite fine because overall you still do plenty of damage. So if you can, try to keep your cooldown available, but otherwise you'll still be able to play this build and farm Nightmare Dungeon in T4. For the boss or elites it's the same, try to do your combo and then use your basic and core attack in order to finish him. Thanks for watching this video. I hope that you like this build, and as usual don't forget that you have everything that you need on this build on the link below the video with all the explanations and the builders. Bye bye!